Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packer Draft Podcast is the one we're doing right now. Today we're going to talk about a few more pro days that have happened and some of the prospects therein. On the docket, we have the Washington Pro Day, the South Carolina Pro Day, South Carolina State, and Northwestern. And then again, I'm assuming time won't be a problem. We'll see. We'll take a break and then break down one of these prospects that is not yet on my big board, meaning we haven't done a breakdown yet. If you'd like to call in, have any questions, comments, concerns regarding the NFL draft, teams, etc., 608-561-3243 is the phone number to call. So, Washington Pro Day was actually held March 16th, so that's kind of a big jump ahead. I think we were on like the 12th or something, but at the Dempsey Indoor Facility on the University of Washington campus in Seattle. Scouts and personnel from nearly all 32 teams were in attendance. 29 were confirmed present. This was one of the final high-profile days of the cycle with strong representation from wide receiver-needy clubs. Roughly 16 to 18 Huskies participated, with the day focused heavily on skill position athletes and defensive front seven testing. The main marquee prospect, not surprisingly, was Denzel Boston, 6'4", 212-pound monster, currently number 29 on the consensus board. He is a local Washington product, 3-year starter, became one of the Big Ten's most productive outside receivers. A bunch of stats, third team All-Big Ten, more stats, elite contested catch winner with a massive catch radius, strong yak ability, physicality at the catch point. He participated only in select drills at the NFL Combine. He had a 35-inch vert and a 4.28 short shuttle. He skipped the 40-yard dash. At his pro day, he stood on most of his combine numbers, but significantly improved key explosiveness and agility marks. He upped his vert to 37.5 inches, which is 2.5 additional inches. His short shuttle was timed at 4.2 to 4.3, which again was 4.28, so by most accounts probably got better. And he did the 3-cone, which was a 6.8 to 6.81, which is pretty elite for his size. He again did not do the 40-yard dash at the advice of his agent to avoid any risk of lean on game. To avoid any risk, presumably, of injury. And I guess coaches, scouts, etc., will have to lean on tape. Said to have looked outstanding in position drills and route running. Scouts described him as having put on a clinic, catching the ball with excellent body control, hand usage, and competitiveness in contested catch situations. He met personally with the Miami Dolphins on site at the workout one day before they traded Jalen Waddle. It is kind of funny to think, again, as a Packer fan, we don't have a first-round pick, all this stuff. Imagine being John Eric Sullivan to be able to suddenly be in a position to start building and getting some of these more elite prospects, getting picks that you've never really had before and looking at prospects. I mean, granted, a guy at 29, especially in a class that has maybe 10, 11 true first-round prospects, whatever, but still, that's got to be pretty exciting. But again, met with him one day before they traded Jalen Waddle. Currently has workouts scheduled with the Buffalo Bills and New Orleans Saints. He already had 10 official top 30 visits scheduled pre-Pro Day, now up to 12 per some reports, with the first being with the Raiders on Sunday. Tony Pauline is projecting him in the bottom third of round 1. PFF predicted board put him at 25 to 40 range. Again, as said on the consensus, he's at 29. Clearly seen as a big body X type of receiver. Some of the other notable performances were from Omari Evans, another wide receiver at 6', 195. As best as I can tell, unless he goes by multiple names, which is the case, I can't find him. He is not on the NFL. I should clarify when I say the consensus board. I feel like NFL Mock Draft Database has done a fantastic job. I've referenced them before. I actually was in contact with them because I used to do this personally. I had a spreadsheet. I would go out and manually find all these I kind of think the one I did was a little better, at least insofar as I could control and see which ones are coming in and how all that worked, and I could actually visually see, like if we got rid of this one, what would it do, whatever. But anyways, he came in and did that. I had a conversation with him. I was like, well, I guess I don't have to do my thing anymore because it's a ton of work now that you've got this, which is awesome. I asked if you need any help, anything like that. He's a good dude. He does a great job. Great website, NFL mock draft database. When I say the consensus, there is no the consensus. There is no the consensus board. But I do think he does probably the best job of anybody at giving what is as best a representation of what the consensus is based on the information that is being put out on the internet. So anyways, and by the way, you can be 29 with half the people saying you're a top 10 guy and half the people saying you're a third round pick, meaning really nobody thinks he's a 29 guy. You know what I mean? So, just things to keep in the back of our mind. But I also know that there is very high correlation with the consensus board and where guys actually go. That's why we get shocked when we look at the consensus board. Go ahead.
Someone is at the front door.
When we look at the consensus board and somebody goes a round or two later or earlier than they're supposed to, and we go, what the heck? It's unusual because we're staring at this board and we expect guys to fall roughly in that line, and they do. So there is, I saw yesterday another guy that I'm a huge fan of, I've talked to and worked with and whatever, kind of more back in the day, Mark Jarvis. He's much more under the radar, but I think if you're in the draft community, you know who he is. Extremely, shockingly intellectual with this. He does all kinds of studies on, it's one of those things where I need to use AI to translate what he says. But he's read a billion different statistical books and all that stuff. But anyways, he had a thing yesterday that was kind of anti-consensus board, and for good reason. However, I do think at the end of the day, the consensus board does line up better. He's of the opinion you can find a statistical model that would outperform it. I don't think that that's true. I hope he can find. I've tried. But at the end of the day, the funny thing about the statistical model, you know which thing correlates the best. It's not your passer rating. It's not your any one statistic. It's the board. Where you rank on the big board is the highest correlation, not just to where you'll get drafted, that's obvious, but to how successful you'll be in the NFL. So, anyways, little side note there. I don't see him on this consensus board, but certainly an interesting prospect. Penn State transfer, clear winner of the day. Unofficially, and these guys with stopwatches, man, get some lasers out here, bro. Unofficial, 4.25 to 4.35. Granted, a tenth of a second is actually really fast, but still, there's a huge difference between did he run a 4.25 or a 4.35. Hand timed would have been near the combine record. Let's get him at the whatever. 41-inch vert on top of that, looked explosive and fluid in drills. I wonder if PFF has him or who has him ranked. Just curious, because not being on here doesn't necessarily mean everything. Obviously, if you're talking about a receiver that has decent size at 6 foot 200 pounds, that's running almost a combine record at the 40 time, somebody's interested. But we got the big man, Jonah Coleman. He's at consensus board 91, 5'8", 220 pounds. Combine participant who, like Boston, skipped the 40-yard dash but showed well in position work and agility. Then we've got Ontario Thompson, defensive tackle at 6'3", 300-ish pounds. He ran an unofficial 4.73 second 40-yard dash, which would have led all defensive tackles at the combine. Some pretty impressive individuals here. Let me see if I can find Mr. Ontario on here. I cannot, so he's not on there either. Zach Durfee, edge rusher. Impressive athletic testing with a 39-inch vert, a 4.69 second 40. Confirmed long-standing reports of elite on-campus athleticism despite having an injury history. He is also not on the consensus board. Additional participants included Takario Davis and Ephesian Prysock, both combine attendees who stood on numbers and looked sharp, plus several other DBs, tight ends, and offensive linemen who drew follow-up scout interest. All right, moving on to South Carolina Pro Day, which was held Tuesday, March 17th at Jerry and Steve Spurrier Indoor Practice Facility. 16 former Gamecock participants in front of 57 front office executives, coaches, and scouts representing 31 NFL franchises and 2 CFL teams. Obviously, one of the top prospects here was Brandon Cisse, the cornerback, about 6 foot 189, projected a day 2 prospect. Junior underclassman with one of South Carolina's top NFL prospects, transferred from NC State, solid but not overwhelming 2025 production. Did not run the 40 at the NFL Combine due to a minor hamstring tweak suffered in pre-combine training in Phoenix. He retested fully at the Pro Day and posted official results of a 4.4 second 40-yard dash, 2 runs faster than early unofficial hand-timed consensus of 4.42 and 4.46. Yeah, go figure. 4.33 second short shuttle, 41-inch vert, 10-11 broad jump, and 15 reps on the bench. His arms measured 31 3/8. Looked good and fluid in position drills, but teams continued to poke around about his health and availability, why he was often sidelined during games. Scouts still view him more as an elite athlete than a finished football player at this stage. PFF predictive board puts him at 41. He remains a projected day 2 pick, late round 1, early round 2-ish, but the size speed not quite meeting sky-high expectations, and health questions could push him later than some initial projections. Another guy, he's currently sitting at 89 on the consensus board, is Jalen Kilgore, safety out of South Carolina. Safety / corner, however you perceive him. 6'1", 218, very fast rising stock. Former freshman All-American who was forced to move to cornerback in 25 due to depth issues and excelled. 44 tackles, 2 interceptions, 9 pass breakups. Versatile, long-limbed athlete with natural fluidity. Stood on all his terrific NFL Combine numbers, including a 4.4 second 40 while working out with the safeties, and limited participation in position drills only. Looked terrific and extremely smooth in coverage work. Official top 30 visits with the Philadelphia Eagles, Houston Texans, Carolina Panthers, Indianapolis Colts, and Seattle Seahawks. Additional meetings with Cincinnati and Minnesota before the workout, Jets and Dolphins after the Pro Day. The Washington Commanders are showing him significant interest, but he is likely to be off the board before their second pick at number 71. Another guy is Rasul Faison. He is a running back out of South Carolina, currently 384 on the consensus board, so if that's any indication, he's fighting for some UDFA slots. 5'10 and 5/8, 206 pounds, productive 2025 rusher, who also participated in the Senior Bowl and Combine. At the Pro Day, official 4.6 second 40-yard dash. The unofficial times had him at 4.49 to 4.5. These guys suck with their stopwatches, dude. 4.26 second short shuttle and 37.5-inch vert. Looks smooth and explosive in position drills and caught the ball extremely well. The Vikings ran his position drills and took him to lunch afterward. Projected to be drafted starting in round 5, starting a solid day 3 value as a vision and contact back. Again, I think a lot of guys are seen as solid day 3 prospects. The problem is there's hundreds of them. So which ones get drafted and which ones fall out of the draft is kind of the question. Right now, again, he's at 384. Very close to him is Brian Thomas Jr., edge rusher out of South Carolina. He's at 348 on the consensus board. Son of former New York Jets 2002 first-round pick Brian Thomas. At the Pro Day, he tested 4.8 second 40-yard dash. Pauline reported him at 4.77. At least he's decent with a stopwatch. 4.41 second short shuttle, 22 reps on the bench, 32.5-inch vert, and 9.8 broad jump. Met with the New York Jets and New England Patriots at the workout. Day 3 or priority UDFA. Other notable performances, defensive tackle Nick Barrett, who was a combine participant, led the group with 31 bench press reps, posted competitive numbers. I won't go through all of them. Wide receiver Eric Rice and wide receiver Jared Brown both posted strong explosiveness marks. Rice was 36-inch vert and 10.6 broad jump. Additional participants, Oscar Attaway, Bradley Dunn, Demon Clowney, it's a crazy name, Jatius Gear. I'll tell you what, why don't we take a break here? When we come back, we'll just run through the other, I think, 2 pro days. We'll be right back. All right, moving on to South Carolina State Pro Day, held Monday, March 16th at the SCSU Football Complex. The Bulldogs, 2025 HBCU National Champions and Celebration Bowl winners, had 16 players work out in front of scouts from all 32 NFL teams. The day was low-key but highly targeted, with virtually all attention on one standout defensive back. That guy being Jared Washington, cornerback, 6 foot, 190 pounds. He is actually at 318 on the consensus board, so we're still talking probably day 3 prospect, although who knows. Transfer from Benedict College, followed head coach Chennis Berry to SCSU, back-to-back first-team All-MEAC selection, MEAC Defensive Player of the Year, Aeneas Williams Award winner, top HBCU DB, first-team FCS All-American, helped lead SCSU to back-to-back Celebration Bowl appearances and the 2025 HBCU National Championship. 2025, he played 12 games, 32 tackles, 2 picks, 1 return for a touchdown, 20 pass breakups, which is crazy, 1 forced fumble. Career totals across 25 FCS games are 25 tackles, 4 picks, 3 returned for touchdowns. Is this guy in line for like a kick return job or something? And 33 pass breakups. That's wild. East-West Shrine Bowl standout, named the fastest player at Shrine Bowl practices, verified top speed of 21.33 miles per hour via Zebra MotionWorks tracking, faster than any Power 4 or Group of 5 prospect in attendance. Pro Day measurements and testing measured exactly 6 foot 190, 4 pounds heavier than his Shrine Bowl weight, timed an official 4.42 second 40-yard dash, which is kind of funny when you look at the difference between play speed and 40-yard dash. 4.42 is not all that impressive, but he was faster than everybody at the Shrine Bowl. Did not retest other combine numbers, but looked good in fluid and position drills, showing smooth hip flip, competitive mirroring, and reliable ball skills. Team interest. Met individually with the Buffalo Bills, Houston Texans, and Green Bay Packers. Additional teams expressed follow-up interest post-workout. Washington has already been invited to the NFL's official HBCU Showcase Pro Day, which is March 28th through the 30th in Ashburn, Virginia. PFF has him at the 280 to 340 range, fast-rising day 3 priority free agent corner with elite speed, good size for the position, zone instincts, and closing burst. Viewed as a high-upside special teams contributor and developmental outside corner who reinforces his growing reputation at the Pro Day. So that's kind of interesting. Interesting gem to keep an eye on there. But finally, the last Pro Day we have is Northwestern. Northwestern's Pro Day was held Tuesday, March 17th, inside Ryan Fieldhouse Indoor Practice Facility in Evanston, Illinois. 17 Wildcats participated in front of scouts and personnel from all 32 teams. The day was heavily weighted toward trenches with a notable presence of offensive line coaches from Denver, New Orleans, Minnesota, and Los Angeles, the Chargers. Both Evan Beerston and Caleb Tiernan had face-to-face meetings with the Broncos and Saints. So starting off with Mr. Evan Beerston, let me take a look here at where he's at. Come on, slow thing. Oh, there he is, 325. So he is interior offensive lineman, guard center, 6'4", 312. Transfers from South Dakota State, multi-year starter who primarily played guard in college, but is now drawing strong projection to center for multiple NFL teams. 0 sacks or hits allowed in the final 1,200 snaps. NFL Combine, he stood on his 40-yard dash and jump numbers. Pro Day, he completed 22 bench press reps, first public benching, and ran a super quick 7.65 second 3-cone. Looks sharp and natural when asked to flip to center in drills. PFF's predictive board has him 358 to 361 range. Late day 3 or high priority candidate with immediate interior versatility and scheme fit zone. Green Bay Packers ties. He is a hometown cheesehead. Yeah, just looking at it. First of all, I love it because he looks like a 35-year-old guy, so that's always a good start for an offensive lineman. His hometown is Green Bay, Wisconsin. He went to Appleton North High School. So there you go. I'm in. Caleb Tiernan, the offensive tackle out of Northwestern, currently 69 on the consensus board, fifth-year senior and one of the most consistent left tackles in the Big Ten. 43 consecutive starts, 0 sacks allowed in 8 of 9 Big Ten games in 2025, all Big Ten second team. PFF's number 8 ranked offensive tackle, number 12 overall offensive lineman. Participated only in the vert at the combine with 35.5 inch, which is top marks among offensive linemen, and broad jump of 9 feet, skipped the 40-yard dash. Pro day, he timed a 4.77 second short shuttle, an 8.05 second 3-cone. Smooth and fluid in position drills. Teams continue to debate Sunday position. College left tackle projected by many to right tackle, with some discussions of potential guard kick due to arm length. Of course, that's a must for every single freaking prospect. Also, another guy that participated was Aidan Hubbard. He is at 308 on the consensus board, edge rusher, 6'4", 260-ish pounds. Northwestern's 2025 sack leader, part of a historic pass rush group. Career total of 20.5 sacks, number 5 in school history. Versatile edge defender with relentless motor. At the NFL Combine, he had a medical exclusion from on-field drills, only participated in bench press, which was 21 reps. At the Pro Day, completed a full workout and posted outstanding athletic testing, a 4.8 second 40-yard dash, 1.67 10-yard split, 38.5-inch vert. Best on the team, would have tied for 6th among defensive ends at the Combine, and a 10-foot broad jump, which would tie 10th among defensive ends. Moved well in position drills. Couple other notables, Fred Davis, the second cornerback, Senior Bowl standout, one of the day's most explosive performers with a 10-foot 3-inch broad jump, a 38-inch vertical. Carmine Bastone and Najee Story took full advantage of the scout-heavy day and posted strong showings and testings. Preston Stone, the quarterback, former SMU transfer, participated and drew follow-up interest. Additional skill players and depth linemen, including Jack Carcello, rounded out the group. Scouts left impressed with the overall athleticism and program culture. All right, we are going to skip the additional rundown of a specific player. Again, I'm obviously behind because we're ripping through so many things, but each one of these little notes are going to end up in the scouting guide that my son and I are putting together. So if you're interested in subscribing, the link is in the description. And it should help with, any questions, comments, concerns I have about prospects. There should be lots of notes in there. There's also team notes if you're doing your mock drafts and whatnot. But anywho, I'm going to leave it at that. Y'all have a good rest of your day. I'll talk to you tonight, tomorrow, whatever. Have a good one. Bye-bye.